What up, artists? My name is Dwayne Jones. I'm the creative director and founder of a lifestyle brand called Art Pays Me. This is the Art Pays Me podcast, and I'm passionate about finding ways that people like you and me can make a living for ourselves off of our creativity. And, maybe we can make the world a better place at the same time. Let's get into it. What's up? Welcome to episode 37 of Art Pays Me. Final episode of 2019. So this time I'm going to talk about, this is the end of a decade. It's not just the end of a year. So I decided what I want to do is talk about sort of the top 10 things that I've learned through art and business for the past 10 years. And hopefully you can relate. And hopefully maybe you get something out of it. But before that, I want to give my shoutouts to Jacqueline McCollis and Aoife McNamara. They're always showing love, and Aoife particularly is always telling people about the show and resharing things, and thank you for that. And likely have, some more things coming in the next year involving Aoife and NASCAD. She's the president there. And and also look up for Art Pays Me on YouTube. We're now on YouTube. I've been on YouTube for a while, but I finally set up a separate account for Art Pays Me. So there's some of the live show things, and there's also some additional content of various things I do with Art Pays Me. So if you're interested in seeing that, check it out. So past couple weeks, it's the holiday time, and it's a challenging time for me. There's a lot of pressure to do the right thing and buy gifts and be present and be happy. My mental health has taken a hit lately, so it's been a little tough trying to stay present and be a good father and a good husband in this time, and remember, to be grateful and be happy and stuff like that. But so I'm gonna take a couple weeks off from the podcast, and this episode's already coming out late, so I'm just gonna not put too much pressure on myself to get things done. And podcast will be back in about mid-January. And I'm kind of excited though, because I want to plan certain things out for Art Pays Me and be more strategic with my releases. This year was pretty quiet in terms of product releases and in terms of the actual clothing brand. I put way more effort into the podcast and some of the behind the scenes business things. So I'm excited to dig back into just creating what it looks like for me to be a painter, and what it also looks like for the brand to be more consistent in terms of product releases and getting more out there. So let me get into the lessons. So number one of the big things that I say kind of got me on my start is make sure you move with intention. And what I mean by that is determine what you want to do. Sometimes we get caught up into what we think we should be doing or what we think other people will expect of us. And sometimes it can be hard to really clear that noise out and figure out what it actually is that we want to do. And I still struggle with this, when I try to figure out, what I want the brand to be, what I want the brand to stand for, what really I want to pursue as a creative practice. And a lot of us have a lot of different interests and a lot of different things we want to pursue, but there's only so many hours in a day and only so much attention that your audience can give you. So sometimes it's important if you can niche down for a bit in terms of what it is that you want to be known for, what you want to be best at, what you want to be good at, and really kind of go and dig into that. And then all the other interests that you have can hopefully complement that. So creating consistently and releasing consistently. That's number 2. What I mean by that is once you've figured out what it is that you love, keep making it and keep putting it out on some kind of a consistent schedule. So one thing I remember with the old podcast I was on, I was told that it stood out because people could consistently know that it was coming out every week. So even if at the beginning it feels like no one's listening or no one's watching or you're not getting any likes on your artwork or whatever the case may be, keep putting it out, keep releasing, keep getting better, keep honing your craft, keep figuring out the best way to communicate with your audience, and eventually things will come together. You'll get your audience will appreciate it. Your skill set will improve, and it just speaks volumes to. I really feel like people want to know that the thing that they're supporting is going to be there tomorrow, and it kind of gives people that comfort when they see you. They see that you have 6 months of consistently doing something. So another thing, number 3, this is one that can be tough for really ambitious people, and for me particularly, it's consume and enjoy culture. Like, we are the creators of culture, right? Now, so here's the tough thing with this sometimes is a lot of us do consume culture, and then we're reflecting that culture and almost kind of ripping it off. And that's good in terms of learning, but when you are trying to become a leader and push yourself to be an independent creative, you eventually have to branch out from that and start like really digging into creating your own thing. And that's along the lines of that intention piece. And one thing that I get caught up in is I get so busy and have so little time that I don't make time I love movies. I don't make time to watch movies. I don't make time to watch like all the great shows on Netflix right now. Right now I just got into The Witcher, and I've just been like consuming and binge watching that a bit, and it feels good. And the thing is, when you do stuff like that, that's where, subconsciously your brain is being fed things that come out in your artwork. A lot of my artwork is inspired by conversations I've had, inspired by speeches or books I read or TV shows I've seen, movies I've watched, and it may not even look anything like the inspiration, but just consuming that culture, it feeds into who I am, and just it becomes reflected in my work. So if we want to be, I really think that us as creatives, we are the creators of culture. So, but you can't create culture in a vacuum, right? Unless you're some kind of a genius. So just remember to take a break and make sure you give your brain a chance to just take some things in. Go to a gallery, go to a show, do those things. It's important. Number 4, find your people and niche down. That can be very challenging. We often think that our products and our services are for everyone, and maybe they can be, but there gets a point where you have to, in order to properly sell, you have to really start to eliminate some of those people that you're talking to, because it feels like your core audience doesn't necessarily stop recognizing that the product or service that you're offering is actually for them, and then you end up being for no one. So a big thing that I found is when I rebranded to Art Pays Me, and I realized that the creative community is really my core audience, and then even niching down further within that I have a key customer avatar that I target, and it's based on one person, and that's who I'm talking to. So, and again, that's something I stray from too, and it's something I continually work on. By the way, this whole list, all things that I am continually working on, so I'm no expert. But yeah, make sure you niche down, make sure you figure out who that is. Probably one of the biggest things I'd say is Number 5, relationships. Relationships are very important. Always make sure you tell people what you do. Your friends, family, colleagues. Hard work alone isn't going to get it done for you. It's, for me, I always thought, put my head down, do your thing, and just tough it out. And eventually you'll get noticed. And, to a degree that does happen. But I found that the biggest change for me happened when I started to build community. This podcast has helped starting the Art Pays Me brand and becoming more of a public figure in terms of my social media presence and attending live events. There's always someone who says, hey, I know someone who does blah, blah, blah. You should check out Dwayne. You should check out Art Pays Me. You can't put a monetary value on that network and the relationships that you can build. You never know who you might meet, who is friends or relatives of someone who could help take your business, your art to the next level. So don't underestimate the power of relationship building and community. I know a lot of us are introverted and quiet and have a hard time doing the social thing. I'm right there with you. I'm very happy alone. But it's very important to make sure, because, look at it this way. Say you're a freelance designer or a freelance photographer or whatever the case may be, and a potential client is trying to choose between three of you who have a similar skill set. Which one are they going to go with? The complete stranger who they don't, the work looks great, but they don't know anything about their professionalism. Another person whose work looks great, but they've heard negative things about them. A person whose work that looks great, and you know them. You know that they're a great person. They're a nice person. They're a reliable person. So develop your skills is important, but develop your people skills and also work on that. Number 6, mindset. Now this is a little woo-woo. This is debatable about how effective this is for a lot of people, but for me personally, it does work. And it's all about belief in yourself. And as someone who struggles with mental health, as I'm dealing with right now, I wake up most days lately feeling like I ain't shit. And I have to try to convince myself every day that I am worthwhile. It's a little harder right now, but I have, anecdotal evidence almost every day that when I don't get myself out of this funk, bad things keep happening to me. So yesterday, I was in a funk, woke up. My wife is babysitting gerbils for her school for the Christmas holiday. And somehow they managed to escape from their cage. So my whole day was starting out me trying to chase gerbils around on the floor in my house. Luckily, I was able to catch them. I should have taken the fact that I was actually able to catch them when I thought that would be impossible as a positive sign. But I took the fact that they escaped as a sign that my day was going to be shit. And then from then on, multiple bad things happened. I fell down my steps walking. It was very slippery. I salted my steps, still fell down my steps walking out of my house. After that, I had intended to record this episode yesterday, grabbed my camera instead of my microphone. Then I banged my elbow on my on my stairs that's already injured. So it just was things were happening. And I really feel like my mindset set that off. And once I started to try to my mom's in town, her partner Wayne is in town, and it's a happy time. My brother's in Halifax, and he hasn't been in Halifax for years, so I have family around me. for the most part, people are healthy, and this is I really have to actively say, let's the business is going to be fine. Like, I'm stressing about the business all the time. I'm stressing about things that aren't going to work out. But as when I find that I'm in a mindset that no, Art Pays Me is killing it, things happen. Things go well for me. Things it's even in sports. A lot of people complain about sometimes the perceived arrogance of athletes, right? When a lot of them, or rappers too, when they talk about, I'm the greatest. And people are like, how can they do that? That's so disgusting, yada, yada, yada. But you know what? I find that when I walk on that basketball court, if I don't feel like I have the ability to take every single person out who's guarding me, then I go out and I play exactly like someone who doesn't think that they can take anyone out. And what happens is it fulfills itself. I have to go out. I have to convince myself that I'm the best player on the floor. At least for me, that's what I have to do. And I find it helps. I'm going to hit this shot when I take it. I'm not going to drop the ball when I go to dribble. I'm going to be successful at every defensive stop I try to make. I'm going to be successful at every offensive attempt I make. And when I don't, not successful, it's okay. The next time I will, But when I dwell on, I missed the shot, I can't shoot anymore, guess what happens? I start shooting terribly. But when I, miss 3 shots in a row, I'm like, it's okay, man. Keep shooting. It's coming. Eventually, the game comes to you. So mindset matters. Keep that in mind. Another thing, number 7 on the list, accept help. This ties into the community piece and relationship building. Now that I've started to build some kind of community and start to establish some relationships, I'm so used to doing things on my own that, now I have people who are saying, I can help you. Be willing to accept that help. Those people can help catapult your business and your, whatever you're doing to the next level, to a level that you can't do on your own. They can open doors for you that you didn't know could be opened. They could take time away from, I tend to get bogged down into a lot of menial tasks that don't necessarily move the business because basically I'm the only one working on the business. But if I can find ways that people are able to help me with some of those things, I need to get better at accepting that help because the examples of success that I see, a lot of those people have established systems where they get to focus their energy into the things that really matter to them, and they can offset the tasks that they don't necessarily enjoy as much, but they're still important for their business. I've already kind of done that with production. Like, a lot of people ask me if I produce all of my clothing myself, and I don't. I don't have the ability. I don't have the time. So I pass that off. I have help to help me. Now, that impacts my profit line. It makes my margins a lot smaller by doing that. But if I were to do it all myself, the brand wouldn't exist. I wouldn't have the time. I wouldn't have the resources. So accept help. Number 8, thing that a lot of us hate, finance. Pay attention to the money. Yeah. So, over the years, I've made a lot of financial mistakes, and my wife would tell you she's witnessed them firsthand. So she's constantly has had to talk to me about these things and be more conscious about stuff. It's not like I'm out here like, I don't buy a lot of clothes. I don't, buy a lot of video games or anything like that. It's just the kind of absent-mindedness, like not watching my finances because I'm sort of scared of it. And I think a lot of us feel that way. Like, we just don't want to watch the money. So we think almost like if we don't pay attention to it, it's not an issue. The issue goes away, but the issue doesn't go away. So you got to make sure you pay your credit cards on time. Make sure so your credit score stays high. Read some books on finances that will help you get a better understanding. So for me, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I read I Will Teach You to Be Rich, and those two books changed my life. I got a shout out to Gaynette, my sister-in-law, for recommending those to me. And she also is. I'm also doing a course with her, and she has a financial portion of it that kind of digs into some of this stuff, and it's very important. It's kind of simple. Like, I'm not going to say that I'm a finance expert now, but it did relieve my some of my stress when I started to get better at it. And some of the, like, maybe the core things about that I learned was pay attention to what's coming in, pay attention to what's going out, watch it regularly so it's like, don't spend more than you have coming in. It's kind of like as simple as you can. And so for some people that's not easy because, different circumstances and everything else. But for me, it kind of meant like, I really like to to eat out. So for me, it was like, okay, don't eat out this day, save that money. But I do think it's important for mental health purposes to treat yourself periodically. So, schedule in your treats, or try to be more intentional about when you're going to treat yourself. But say, okay, but today I'm not going to spend that money on this thing. And for me, the other part is I have a product-based business. So a lot of my, spending has to do with the product. So it can be challenging in that sense of, you can't always guarantee that when you're going to spend money on product that it's going to come back to you in sales. So it can be challenging in terms of that. But pay attention to what's going in, pay attention to what's coming out, learn about investing. And I'm not saying like play the stock market, but like figure out different ways you can invest money into things that will generate a return where you don't necessarily have to do the additional work, right? That could be, for me, I've decided my business is going to be my key investment, but I also have smaller term return investments that like give me, say, like a 2 or 3% return, or 4% return, 5% return. These things like that, put them away, forget about it, leave it, so that you have nest eggs later on. Number 9, address your mental health. So this ties into mindset as well. So over the past 10 years, I was diagnosed with anxiety, generalized anxiety, and I didn't really know what it was when it first happened. I was told that I did one of those counselors over the phone. They said that I was showing symptoms of depression. So I thought maybe it was that, but it wasn't like I wasn't like I couldn't get out of bed type thing. I was still functioning. I was doing a master's degree at the time. I was working a full-time job. I was just starting my business. Not the art pays me part of the business anyway. So, and the Be Glitterati part. So I was like high achieving and high performing, but I just was not in a good spot. Didn't know what it was about. Eventually, I did get a counselor who was able to diagnose me officially, and it came out to be generalized anxiety. Once I started to really address that, I saw my business leaped quite a bit, and because what I was able to do was I was able to understand what the problem was, and was able to start doing things to address it and help my focus, like making sure I sleep, because I wasn't sleeping. I was doing the hustle 24 hours a day, blah, 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 thinking that that's what I need to do, just work harder. Sometimes having a good night's sleep would wake me. I would wake up and feel so charged up that I would be super productive the next day, and probably do 2 or 3 times as much work as I would have had I just tried to stay up. I also made exercise more of a priority. I love basketball, and sometimes I let that slip, but now I just it's a must. That said, I haven't played in 3 weeks, so I have let it slip lately. So that's probably also why my mental health is not great right now. But I started to do yoga more consistently. I started to just practice more mindfulness in terms of what am I actually feeling right now? Being okay with being angry, being okay with being sad, being okay with whatever emotion I had, addressing it, letting it pass through, and giving it its moment, and then saying, okay, it's done. Now we can move to the next thing. It takes work. It's very difficult. It's not easy. But these are things you could do. Sometimes medication helps. I was on medication for a bit. I'm not anymore. But it's always going to be different for other people. But make sure that you pay attention to how you feel. Really pay attention to that. Your mental health is everything. It's everything. Your mental and your physical health, I should say. I guess I should have tied them too, because what the hell is the point of all of this if you flop out with a heart attack in 2 years? Pay attention to all of that stuff. It's important. I feel so much better when my body's healthy, when I feel a certain level of confidence. I feel a certain level of just accomplishment, and it, knowing that my body is physically strong makes me mentally happier. So address your mental and your physical health. They're key. Number 10. Why are you doing this? What makes you happy? So this again is I think probably number 10 is a summation of all of them. Happiness is something that I think we all want at the end of the day, right? Why are we pursuing our passion project? We're pursuing it because we want to feel good about what we're doing. We want, ultimately, I think, to be happy people. When I see myself, when I picture what success looks like for me, on paper, I might have pretty much accomplished a lot of that stuff. But when I'm sitting there and I'm experiencing all these mental health things, and I'm I don't feel good. What's wrong with me? And people telling you that, you're inspirational and things like that, and you're not feeling it, then you have to realize happiness is something you have to work on. So for me, going into 2020, this next decade, I really want to focus on happiness. I used to think that my art came from negativity, that I had to be in a dark place to create. And when my mental health started to get better, I realized that, man, I don't need to be in that dark place to create. Some of my favorite work has come out of happy times and happy periods. Lean on your family. If you have family, if you have a creative family, if you have an online family, friends, lean on those people. Try to remind yourself of what you do have going for you. Try to actively change your mind. Try to actively be present. Allow yourself to feel negativity. Allow it to pass through. You know what? I think that'll do it. So our paging will be back around January 12th or so. I hope everyone's had a good year, a good decade. As much as I feel like I wish I did more, I'm, again, actively reminding myself that I've done fine and I'm doing well. I will continue to do well. And, Much love for y'all. It's December 24th right now, so I'm gonna go home, wrap some gifts, eat some food, enjoy some family time, and watch some Witcher, and hopefully play some video games with my brother. Peace. Thank you so much for listening to the Art Pays Me podcast. Thank you to Langy Beats for the theme music. If you got anything out of this show, please rate, review, and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. The more you do this, the more reach the podcast gets, and the more artists I can help learn to make a living at what they love. If you want to know more about what I do, hit me up at artpaysme.com or at artpaysme on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest. See y'all next time.